Right. Welcome back to another episode of Sports Reports as Ordered. I'm your co host, Mike Wilson, also known as 25. You can find me on Twitter at 2Bit Reports. So, I got my man Raph Rutley back in the house. We're going to give you our
Yeah.
what's going on, Mr. Raph.
Oh man, just living life, just happy retired life. Hit the gym a little bit. Get ready for this. Just a hobby turned to a passion.
Yeah.
Make it happen. Just a couple of vets chopping it up.
Yep. And then
Not
just
we
like just
get a
like
lot.
last week, I need you to, put your video back on and off again. I don't see you right now.
You don't see me?
No, no. Hopefully you can see me.
No, I'm back.
All
Back
right,
and
I
work.
got you. You got me.
Got you.
All right, we in there. So, yeah, man. Like, working out, is like the basis of my life. At this point, just trying to stay in shape, trying to live a long time. All that good stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
You
I'm
know,
trying to have 40 more summers.
yes, but I want to let everybody know. Pull them behind the curtain a little bit. Look, this thing is like homework, y'all. You know what I mean? I be up in here till like 1 in the morning looking up these obscure things, to entertain and to just throw some stuff out there because we want to be a little bit different than the people that just talk a lot,
You're
so
not here to blow me yet. I got like 12 tabs open up on my laptop. I got notes written down here to think about this all week. And we're gonna try to give you guys two videos a week. We have football season. We're in the middle of the playoff push. A lot of surprises, a lot of blunders, a lot of people losing their jobs, a lot of people who should get paid, a lot of people who are going to get paid that probably shouldn't get paid. We got it all. You got the NBA, you got the All-Star game coming up. It's going to be in Salt Lake City, Utah. Shout out to Utah, Wasatch 801. What up? You know what I mean? So, I'm saying we doing big things. So, yeah. Yeah, just a couple of guys, man, chopping it up, trying to provide some intellect, some entertainment, and
mhm.
ultimately just have a good time.
And all I'm gonna say is before we get started, if you believe that your head coach is right for you, do not use one game or a 27-point comeback to fire him. With that being said, we're going to start off the show with talks of a 12-team playoff. Do we like it? If we don't like it, what will we change about it? We're going to hit you with some wild card recaps, just give you a quick synopsis of each game. We're going to get into a talk about Luka Doncic, because he's a hot topic. A lot of people don't like him or the coverage on him, but he has earned that coverage. I'll just say that. We're going to talk briefly about Lamar Jackson. Should the Ravens sign him? Should they give him all the money? I think one of us is going to say yes and one of us is going to say no, but we'll figure that out as well. Then we're going to transition into a couple of NBA thoughts. We're getting close to the All-Star game, like Raph mentioned. So playoff runs are coming, trade deadline on February 9th. So, just some thoughts. We're going to take a quick turn into Byron Leftwich. And then we're going to finish it off, as always, with getting something off of our chest. So, Raph, 12-team playoffs. What you got?
Well, everyone was looking at the final score at TCU, Georgia. I want to say here for the record that I knew it was going to be a blowout. I text everybody. My dad's a big sports fan. He was like, I got to call this close game. I'm like, no. I had it 42-14. The reason I had it 42-14 is that at this point in the college football playoff run, you really got two teams. The beginning of the year, August, September, yeah, you may have 4 to 6 that you think can really do it. When it comes down to it, with the crash course of all the SEC teams playing each other, you got two teams that are going to play for the national title. And one of them, at some point, either in the semifinal round or the actual college football playoff, is going to be a bit overmatched. Because the top two teams are the creme de la creme. And I think people are ignoring that because they're just looking at the record. They look at the records like, oh, Houston went 11-1 and Cincinnati went 12-0. You're not competing at the college level with the athletes that some of these top schools are able to recruit, whether it's money, whether it's location, whether it's weather, whether it's the coach's ability to recruit, whether it's the NIL deal, whether it's the boosters, whatever it is, certain schools in a certain region have that advantage in almost every category. Alabama has gotten so much money off of boosters. The money you get for being in the BCS championship, the money you got for being in the national championship games. Every single year they're getting $25 million on top of the boosters, on top of the Nike deals, on top of the TV deals. They're on ESPN all the time. They're on ABC. They're on CBS. They're on at 4 o'clock. They're on at 1 o'clock. They're playing neutral sites in Dallas and they're selling out. They're just constantly there. Then you follow up teams like LSU, even if it's a flash in the pan, Auburn, flash in the pan, LSU, flash in the pan. The year that they flash, they dominate. And it's not even close. So I don't know what 12 would do besides have us watching multiple games. Maybe they're competitive. Maybe if you give a first round bye to the top 4 teams and it's 5 through 12, maybe you got a shot. USC at 5 and a team like will go like
how about Tulane? That just beat them in the bowl game.
So and they always say, oh, they didn't want to be there anyway. Any given Saturday in college football, yeah, things could happen. But for the most part, man, just a talent. Like I knew Georgia's talent was going to be overwhelming, and exactly what I said was going to happen. TCU was using Max Duggan to run. But once you realize that the Georgia defensive tackles run just as well as linebackers, that little RPO was useless. Because, one dude's going to hit the running back, the other guy's going to hit the quarterback. So when they couldn't do that, it was like, now you got to drop back pass. All right, well, TCU has great Texas skill players, but they match up well with the Georgia skill players. So you're not getting an advantage there. Georgia's had an advantage everywhere. And then they had the quarterback that's older than half the quarterbacks in the NFL playoffs. So he's seen it all. You can't disguise anything with 19, 20, and 21-year-olds playing coverage. He's like, this dude's been in college for like 6 years. So that was their advantage. And the schools who have that kind of cachet, Georgia's going to get another guy next year. They'll pull a guy from somewhere, either transfer portal or out of nowhere. And it's like, you know what? If you can't throw it 30 times a game, you'll just run it. So I think the 12-team playoff is going to be good for entertainment as far as financial entertainment for people who are profiting from it. But as far as competitive edge and viewership, it won't change anything. 12 is never going to be a national champion.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned the age thing because Stetson Bennett just happens to be the same age as Lamar Jackson. So, chew on that one for a second. So I agree, but for different reasons. I look at it more so from the standpoint of looking at FCS as an example. So a lot of people, myself included, I'm recently transitioning over to this line of thought. Originally, I said, hey, FCS does 24 teams. So if they can do that, what is 8 or what is 12 for FBS? But then I pulled it back and I said, hold on, wait. North Dakota State has won 9 out of the last 12 FCS championships. First of all, so how does that even happen? Not even the fact that a team did it, but why is it North Dakota State? Why is it a team in North Dakota? Anyway, I'll come back to that. So looking at this, the SEC fanboys are going to be out, and I'm finally going to get some love from them because I'm about to say something that they finally going to love from me, which is what happens when 4th place Mississippi State wins the national title, over 2nd place Georgia, whatever the case may be. There's no Big Ten team in the title game. There's no ACC team in the title game because for the last few years, Clemson has been the only real team that's been competitive anyway. Also, like for college football, I don't understand, and maybe you could help me with this, Raph. So I remember back in 2006 or so, the nation just galvanizing behind George Mason, and a few years after that, Shaka Smart brought VCU all the way to the Final Four, beat Kansas and everything. We don't want that in college football. So even like if TCU could or would have beat Georgia, people would have still been upset that it wasn't like your traditional blue blood or your traditional what we think of as a big school. Because if Texas, for example, or Oklahoma had played Georgia and lost that same way, maybe people make their jokes, but I don't know if it's a matter of they don't belong. So I think that's just a little different in how we view things. Like all season long, people said TCU doesn't belong. They haven't played anybody. XYZ. You switch that TCU to say Texas or Oklahoma, everybody's happy because you're going to get an epic matchup between two blue bloods.
Everybody's happy because you can fill 100,000 seat NFL, a 70, 80,000, 100,000 seat NFL stadium with Oklahoma versus Texas, Ohio State versus Alabama, Georgia versus Oklahoma. You can fill the stadium. People don't like the underdog story to be the champion. They like to watch. They like the underdog to try and got the little engine they could and chug it all the way down. But no one wants to see Cincinnati beat Alabama, which surprises me because I would rather see that. I'd rather see Virginia Tech over Florida State. Like when Vic got in the lead back in 99, 2000, and that national championship game. And then Florida State was a criminal. So they eventually came back and they won. I think it was like 42-29, something like that. But Vic played his heart out to get that lead. I'd rather see that because it's amateur sport. The problem is that it's not operated like an amateur sport. NCAA is a not-for-profit organization. Tax exempt. They don't pay taxes on all the money they get, as long as they don't turn a profit. You think that $17 million that the schools for playing these games that's good money. But they want teams that can travel. For instance, the year before the BCS was last one was Auburn versus Florida State. The game was in Pasadena. We were living in Utah at the time. I had a couple of Auburn fans. He got tickets to that game for like $200 because they couldn't sell out the stadium because you had two Southern teams playing in Southern California. So in order to get airfare and everything else, luckily he flew from Utah, so it was a cheap ticket. But the ticket he bought for the game was a couple $100. They don't want that. They don't want to not be able to sell out the national championship game. So if it's an initiative, if it's Cincinnati or Ohio State, and Ohio State has enough of a reason to get in over Cincinnati to go pick Ohio State. And then watching TCU lose 65-7 is even more incentive to put in the team that plays a tougher schedule or has the bigger legacy or the longer legacy.
All right. So thank you, Molly Gary. Hopefully it's not Gary, from Sporting News for giving me this one. So since the college football playoff has started in 2014, only 14 schools have made the playoffs. So in that 14, Alabama has 7 appearances, Clemson has 6, and Ohio State has 5. So if you're doing the math at home there, 14, 6, and 5, that's 23 of those 36 slots.
There's 131 college football teams.
Yes.
Just add that little bit for you.
Yeah, so with that being said, only 7 schools total, and of course that includes the schools I just mentioned. Only 7 schools have been more than once. So outside of the big players that you mentioned, Alabama, Georgia, so on and so forth, there's not even dynasty potential. So like you're getting the parity as far as who's getting in, but it doesn't seem to matter once the games actually kick off. So with that being said, in the semifinals, average margin of victory, and I know this year was epic. This year was awesome. But most years are not. So since the playoff has started, the average margin of victory in the semifinals is 19.7 points. So it's almost 3 touchdowns. Teams are getting their wigs peeled back every single year, and they want to go grab more money. Now you want to go let a 9-3 team in. And, the NFL is a little different. You had your 9-7 New York Giant wild card that came through and crushed the buildings, but the talent is more evenly dispersed in that league. Whereas in college, we know a 3-loss team is a 3-loss team, especially depending on what league they play in. A 3-loss Pac-12 team, for example, is not the same as a 3-loss SEC team, Big Ten team, so on and so forth.
Correct.
So I mentioned North Dakota State winning 9 out of the last 12 national titles at the FCS level. Before North Dakota State went on their run, it was all about Appalachian State. Those guys that went into the big house and beat Michigan, they had ran off 3 straight national titles before they left to go to FBS. So, FCS gives us a look into what our future may be with the FBS. And with that being said, I think I remember you supporting 4 teams, like staying at 4, for the sake of competitive balance and all that kind of stuff like that. Whereas I was more so, let's go 8, just because. And the only reason I said 8 is because what's the point of having a Power 5 if 5 champions don't get in? So that's where 4 doesn't sit right with me, because there's always potential that a conference champion is going to not get in. But also, in most years, there's going to be 2, because there's going to be 2 SEC teams, or there's going to be 2 Big Ten teams. So there might even be 2 conference champions. And you can get into the arguments about conference strength and all that kind of stuff that we just talked about. But what's the point of winning your conference in any sport if you don't have an opportunity to go to the dance?
Because when they took the math out of it with the BCS, everyone hated the BCS math, strength of schedule, where you were ranked. A lot of people hated it. But ultimately, there might have been some years where like the 3rd ranked team maybe had a bit of a gripe against the number 2 team. But that wasn't as common as it is now. But here, 6, 7, and 8, a lot of these, I think Utah, big fan, they were 10-3. They were 8 going into the Rose Bowl. So you're telling me that Georgia at 13-0 would have to match up with 10-3 Utah just to prove what? You already know who's better. You know who is already better. It's just people want to clamor because the rules are laid out. College football, you have the capability of going 11-1, 12-0, 13-0, whatever that number is, simply by the way that you are structured as an organization. 20 kids are 5-star recruits. Like 24 kids are 5-star recruits in the Big Ten. 16 of them go to Ohio State, like every year. So Ohio State, you can't be like, oh, we played a tough Michigan game on the road. I'm like, you also got all the 5 stars in the state of Ohio. They come to your school, and you got a couple of transfer players from Pitt or Clemson that were also 4 or 5 stars. So you're getting the best players. So you cannot make the pity me argument of, oh, well, we only lost 1 game. No, you're setting it up to where you go undefeated. You don't go undefeated, or you don't win your conference with just 1 loss at max. Then you shouldn't be on TV, Nick Saban lobbying the night before the thing comes out, because you already know what the rules are. Like you're playing spades face up. You already know. You can't then ask the committee to help you get in when you already reneged. You had your opportunity. They can't act like, oh, we lost on the last play and the game was 9-6. They gave up like 300 yards. That one wide receiver, like maybe double him. I don't know. Like, I mean, like, they're a good team. They're a great team, a great coach, but in the same sense, like, okay, yo, you know the rules, you know the parameters. You got to go 11-1, 12-0 to truly be considered amongst the top 4.
See, I love the fact that you brought up 9-6, because people at home, we did not talk about 9-6 at all before we started this. But as he was speaking, 9-6 popped in my mind, because one of my next points to play devil's advocate against my own 8-team playoff or 12-team playoff is that college football fans always told me growing up that college football was the one sport where every week mattered. So, if you lost early in the season, you had a chance to make it up. But if you lost late, you were done.
You were done.
So this 9-6 thing, Alabama, LSU, 2011, live from Bryant-Denny Stadium in Tuscaloosa. LSU went into that stadium and won that game. So then Oklahoma State was number 2 for a lot of the season. And then on our Friday night, unfortunately, they went to Ames, Iowa, and they lost, 24-21, lost by 3 points. So what happened? At the end of the year, the BCS said, give me Bama LSU or give me death. But I say, hey, we already saw that game, 9-6, and it was in Tuscaloosa. So if I'm LSU, every week doesn't matter because now I got to go play a team I beat already. Now, granted, the game was in New Orleans. No one told LSU to lose 21-0. But the point being, Alabama had way more incentive in that game because they had the revenge on their side as well. So that's where, for me, it gets a little cloudy because every week does not matter in this scenario. So college football's regular season was a playoff all the way through, whereas in the NFL, and here, check out this segue. In the NFL, you have teams like San Francisco and Seattle, who San Francisco beat twice, and then they just had to play them Saturday. So what happened in that game, Raph?
I mean, Brock Purdy is Kurt Warner 2.0, Patrick Mahomes 2.0, Mr. Irrelevant, Tom Brady 2.0. I mean, like, it's just crazy, all the accolades. Yeah. So when they lose this week to Dallas, I think all this Brock Purdy stuff will stop. I mean, it's over for Trey Lance.
See, and I told this man we wasn't doing previews, and you see what he just did?
I'm just throwing it out there.
Dakota, see what he just did?
But yeah, I think that the NFL playoffs, I wish they were stuck to 12 teams. I don't like 14 at all. I just don't think that 14th. I don't think that should have been that many teams barely at 500 in the playoffs. I get it. Every year it happens. 9-17. Occasionally Seattle, they went 7-9. I think New Orleans was 7-9 one year. Mm-hmm. It happens. I get it. The Arizona Cardinals were 9-7 a year. That Kurt Warner and Larry Fitzgerald and the pass to the corner with Roethlisberger and Santonio Holmes. I still don't think he got his second foot down. To this day, I watch that highlight. I watch that highlight every time it comes on, and I still don't see that second toe on the ground. It's on his foot, but that's neither here nor there. But, like, it's rare that a 9-17 really makes a run. You had the Giants that
did it twice.
They beat the Patriots. So it happens more often to where it's like, okay, but for the most part, your better teams are, they're going to advance. I just think that Shanahan, I think they hit you with a different kind of wave that I think every team could model, but they don't. They hit you with this wave of get the ball into the hands of your playmakers. Also, have playmakers all over the field. And I get everybody isn't going to be, you're not going to get number 1 draft picks all over the field. But if you're at practice in August and you notice your wide receiver is built like a running back, like, maybe don't hand it to him from out of the backfield all the time, but I'm like, let's get this ball to him quick. Like a young quarterback, we get some crossing routes. Let me get these kind of one-on-one routes, easy throws for my quarterback to get to the hands of playmakers. Kittle is a matchup nightmare in the middle. You can't put a corner on him because you have to put a nickel corner on him. Can't put a safety on him because he's going to beat him. Can't put a linebacker on him because he's probably going to beat him. So you got to bracket him. So you got to get a corner underneath, line safety over top, linebacker underneath safety. So you got to do something. You got to take 2 people out just for Kittle because he's great run at the catch. He's always looking to catch the ball in the middle of the field. Doesn't shy away from contact. Big tight end, young quarterback's best friend. They just use their pieces better than the other teams that I see in the playoffs. I'm not a big Shanahan guy. I mean, he did get Matt Ryan MVP. He still should have ran the ball on second down in that game in Houston back in the day. But we're not going to talk about that. But if you just look at what he had to do with a rookie quarterback, and it's not like they're winning games 17-14. They're putting up 30, 35 points, 21-0. They're going on runs, 2-3 drives in a row. He's getting 2 or 3 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown. I think they just figured it out. I think he's coaching better than a lot of other coaches. I
Mhm.
just I don't want to be the next person kind of jumps on that wave, something like it has to come to an end. Like the run has to stop. And I think it happens this weekend, but we'll talk about that later.
So speaking of your point about the weapons all over the field, what caught my eye was San Francisco with the 505 total yards. So when you think of a rookie quarterback,
And Pete Carroll, defensive coach. Okay, keep going.
yeah, when you think of rookies, you think, play it close to the vest, let's get out of here 17-14, or let's not, do all these things. But then I looked at Seattle's defense and I said, what are they doing? Because I feel like there was a few times San Francisco ran the same play and Seattle just didn't adjust to it at all. But what caught me was it was 17-16 at the half. And for a moment, I said, could the unthinkable happen?
You
Right?
text me upset alert.
Yeah, upset alert. Because
what? Let me check this
yeah,
out.
because DJ Metcalf finished with 10 catches for 136 yards. So, that vaunted San Francisco defense, kind of showed some leaks maybe. We'll have to see if Dak can be the one to.
Though he's an
What?
exceptional player. Just that.
Definitely.
So, like, just that size speed combination and hope and throw. Like you can just hope he's gonna be open. You can hope that he's gonna jump him. You just gotta make that throw because you can't cover him the whole game. Because it look, if you're a smart coach would know, like if you're gonna cover my guy this way the whole time, I'm gonna adjust. And that's what I think San Francisco does well. Like they're like, okay, cool, we'll just get it to McCaffrey out of, or Eli Mitchell. It seems like they're just throwing fresh bodies at you all the time.
Right. And Brock Purdy also went over 300 yards for the first time. So, that's something to look forward to, 49er fans, maybe, because if I don't know anything else, I know Trayvon Diggs could allow a big play. So, with that being said, I'm not previewing. I just threw that out there. But last week I gave you a stat. Seattle 9-0 when they rushed for 75 yards. So, Kenneth Walker, the rookie, the phenomenal rookie, as the primary ball handler, 15 carries for 63 yards. So that tells me either Seattle should have gave him a couple of more touches, or they were just overmatched to begin with, and they had pride in the first half, and then reality kicked in the second half. That's what I got out of the game. It was a division rival. You're familiar with them. You play hard because you don't like each other, but then eventually the game within the game.
There's only so much you can do with what you have. Like what you do, you're not gonna scheme up a new way to get points and yards in January that you haven't already done. Like if they were giving the ball to Lockett on jet sweeps and touch passes, and they bring in some gadget running back, wide receiver, returner out of the backfield, and they were hitting them with screen. If that was part of their DNA for the whole year, then yeah, you need something like that. You're gonna need some kind of dynamic X factor type of player or scheme. Like your schematics have to work, and that's what San Francisco has. Schematically, they can just hit you with Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Elijah Mitchell, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, all in the field at the same time, and they can do that every play if they want. Or bring a Juszczyk instead of a Mitchell from shotgun. You got another wide receiver, number 15. I forgot his name.
That's not Jennings, is it?
Yeah, Jennings.
Yeah.
So
okay.
That's your threat. Like what are you gonna do with that? When they're on, they can be on. I just think that like some point mistakes have to happen. Somebody has to slip, drop, pass, maybe the weather, some rain. But if it's like 60 and no breeze next week, then I might have to change my pick.
Well, speaking of DNA, I love the DNA talk. So DNA. Hey, Brandon Staley. I know I referred to you as Mr. Go for it on fourth down at the wrong times. You damn sure didn't do it at the right time this week.
He didn't go for it at all. He just got tight. He puckered up.
And what's crazy about it is everybody has Herbert mania, right? And I said, look, There's a couple of 3rd and 3s. There's a couple of 3rd and 4s. Get me that. I'm not asking you to get me a 3rd and 9. I'm not asking you to make a miraculous play on 3rd and 13. Get me 3 yards, please. Hit Keenan Allen in the back of the end zone wide open. Please. If Jacksonville gives you the ball and you, because they hit a dude in the helmet, and you get can you get more than a field goal out of that? Please, if you're the, and I'm not saying that he's not that guy. I'm just saying, can you do that for me? And real quick, and Mr. Bosa, can you not act like Draymond Green in the heat of the moment?
Oh my goodness. My son plays youth football. My oldest son played high school football. He played for 3 years. My youngest son has played for now 7 seasons. I've never seen a kid do that. And I've watched so many football games for my son's youth and high school program that I know the cheers, the moves, all of it, the clap, the stomp, the hand, the wave, I've been at that many football games, and I've never seen a child take his helmet off, slam it, get it handed back to him, and slam it again. Not at practice, not at a game, not a game. I've never seen it happen. And for him to do it, I thought he was getting kicked out of the game because he got unsportsmanlike earlier from the ref. So I'm like, and then I think it was Terry McCauley, one of the referee commentators, said that because it wasn't the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty he got with the referee was different than the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty he got with the helmet, because it wasn't related to interference or interacting with a staff member of any kind. So if he would have, for instance, like Quay Walker pushed a medical member or bumped into a referee, he would have gotten unsportsmanlike. That would have been his second one. He would have got ejected. But since this unsportsmanlike is just the heat of the moment of him just being obnoxious, it didn't count. I don't know why that's separate. I think 2 is 2. You shouldn't need to. I think, like I said, the only time I've ever seen a kid get kicked out of a game was a youth football game. He ran, scored a touchdown, and when he was running down the sideline by himself, he pointed to the sky, got to the end zone by himself, spiked the ball. They gave him 2 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties to kick him out of the game, 9 years old. I was like, are you serious? You just kick the kid out of the game for spiking the ball? That's unsportsmanlike conduct in our league. And he got kicked out. But once again, I've never seen a child deliberately act the way Joey Bosa did.
What did he say to that ref?
Man, he that scale. I mean, F around and you find out. He went right to the top because you can see he was like, oh, what'd you say? A word? And he said it again. He was like, because he gave him a shot to not say anything. He leaned in like this. Joey Bosa's a big dude. He's about 6'5", 260. So he must have said something extremely slick for a right-sized man to just run up on him. But so whatever he said, none of that makes any sense to how the game played out. I mean, look, so we'll get into this and get off my chest, but I don't want to overshadow Trevor Lawrence threw 4 picks. 4 picks in the first half of his first playoff game at home. Fans didn't boo. That's one thing I noticed. The fans didn't boo. I don't my son was asking, how many people left? I'm like, I don't know the price of those tickets and those people up in the pool. Because I know that pool pass probably costs a little bit too. So I was like, I mean, you're already there. It's been the first time you've been in playoffs, 6 seasons. Might as well stay. But I never felt like the game was over. But I thought you'd get a turnover. Like I said, we talked about this earlier. I thought when it got to 27-7, because they went to half 27-7, Lawrence moved down the field, got a touchdown. I thought that LA would get the ball coming out, maybe to get a 3-and-out to get the ball back. They get to score to 27-14. I thought at that point, somebody who doesn't normally get the ball would make a mistake. the guy returning the kickoff trying to make a play because the pressure's kind of on because your 27-0 lead is now 27-14. Now you want to make a play. I thought that guy would try to do too much, get his elbow hit, fumble the ball, get a short field. Didn't happen. Just LA just didn't operate like the clock was on their side.
Mm-hmm.
They were playing like they were down 27-0.
So we mentioned that Staley didn't go for it on 4th down. But what he did was call a jet sweep on 3rd and 1 with a dude.
He didn't get that play.
He
didn't get that play at all.
Yeah, you know why? Because that play was probably designed for DeAndre Carter, who was not there. So he tried to plug and play, and it didn't work.
He tried to avoid the ball.
Yeah, he was like, no, I don't want it. Like, dude, you better hand that ball off and get a yard.
But that's the thing. I don't think he knew the play. Somebody didn't know it. So I don't know. I've heard Peyton Manning call play calls. I watched the Manning cast, and it's like a sonnet from Shakespeare. That left, overlook, kill, 5 dime, money, go, run, slash. And he didn't hear the slash part, so he just was going to run, go.
He was waiting for the Omaha.
Yeah, he was running. He did this with his arm, and then it hit off his arm. I was like, how were you not prepared in that moment? How do you not get that play off? So, but yeah, Doug Peterson went for the little sweep on 4th and 1. And if that didn't work, people would kill him for it. So I'm not going to kill you for the play call not working. I'm going to kill you for the fact that the dude ran the play didn't know it was for him.
So here's my question for you. In a scenario like that, how this game played out, what is the difference between saying, hey, I'm going to fire this dude versus, hey, it was the first playoff game. He's still a relatively young head coach. It was an awful look. Let's go into next year and move forward.
I don't think anything happened in the game to fire anybody.
Okay.
Simply because if they got you to 27 points, that's enough. That's enough in an NFL game. If you collectively, as a unit, head coach, defensive coordinator, special teams, everybody has to maintain, like the offensive coordinator got you 27 points. I don't think they had the defensive touchdown. They had some short fields. So the offensive play calls got you to 27 points. The defensive play calls that didn't change in the second half, and it was like, listen, they were jumping everything short. And I don't have like the tape to see how deep the Jacksonville routes were. But what it felt like in the first half, felt like Jacksonville was running routes that were like 5 yards apart. So the tight end would come across at 5 yards, the wide receiver would come across at 10 yards. Mm-hmm. And what was happening is like you had safeties, corners, linebackers jumping either route. The Asante Samuel pick when he got on Ingram, when Ingram was doing the cross, he just flat came off of his guy. It was like they were playing like this zone that was like maybe 10 or 15 yards from line of scrimmage, and that's all they were doing. So every interception he threw was that. It was somebody coming down and either taking away his first read or jumping where he actually threw the ball. So that's why he threw the 4 picks. So Zay Jones in the second half, when he caught his touchdown, he ran like a deep crossing route. It was a safety on the defensive left, and then you had Derwin James on the right. He jumped down on someone running a big route, and Zay Jones ran right by him. The safety was expecting Derwin James to be here. He's here because they had jumped that route so many times. Mm-hmm. So I think Jacksonville noticed, hey, man, we can get these deep crossing routes off. So they started running shallower crossing routes. Instead of running them so close, it felt like they were just running one guy 5 yards away from line of scrimmage instead of 10. Mm-hmm. And another guy deep. And when they started doing that, the defense kept doing the same thing. Like every play you would watch, even on the touchdown to Ingram, they're in the red zone. I think Jacksonville had the ball like maybe inside the 10. He ran, and everyone jumped. They ran with him and then jumped back down to the goal line. Trevor Lawrence threw it over the top. Like, they just kept squeezing down. It was like they were doing it the whole way up the field. And Jacksonville figured it out. So they were like, oh, I'm just going to wait one more second.
Well, last week I brought up the death by 1,000 paper cuts. And I think that early in the first half, they said, we're not going to allow that. We're not going to allow them to take these short to intermediate routes and get free yak and all that good stuff like that. Whereas in the second half, once Jacksonville adjusted, it was like they just thought, like, they got to go back to what they were doing. Like, for some strange reason, like, the conversation was like, why are they not doing what they were doing before? And it's like, oh, don't worry, they'll revert back to themselves. And it just never happened.
They were running the ball.
How about that fourth down, the run to ETN?
I knew in my heart of hearts that was they were setting those three guys up to push Trevor Lawrence forward.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm on that defense, I'm getting cut because I'm in the gap. I'm in the A gap because in my mind, those three dudes behind Trevor Lawrence were going to push him in the back.
Yes,
and that didn't happen. And when it happened, I was like I said, me and my son, we watched the Vikings Colts game. It was the same thing. It was like, at some point, as a staff, you got to come together. No players around you. Whatever, how many coaches that you trust, and say, hey, man, we're winning this game, right? We're up by a lot. I know it's getting close. They made a little run. But it's 11 minutes left in the fourth. Can we get 5 minutes off of this clock? We do have Austin Eckler, pound for pound, strongest dude on our team. Can we just give him the ball? But they kept giving him the ball the same way. He was losing yards every first down. And they were like, they couldn't give it to him 1 second. Now it was second and 13, Matt. I don't have the stats here, at least 5 times in the second half.
Well, speaking of getting cut and all that good stuff, you mentioned you didn't see a reason that anyone should be fired.
I didn't.
What I saw in Orchard Park, New York, was a dude that needed to be in his commander's office reporting as ordered. Because I went to a thing and you went to it called Airman Leadership School. And outside of giving speeches, one of the very first things they taught us in Airman Leadership School, also known as ALS, was that you gotta learn how to manage your time. As a supervisor,
3 to 5 minutes. If it was 2 minutes and 59 seconds, you failed. If it was 5 minutes and 1 second, you failed. You practiced it. We did the same thing in NCO school. We practiced it, sitting on a pool table in our hotel, practicing these speeches, timing it out, practicing it out, getting our game plan together.
So why did this professional football team have so many issues getting plays in?
They blew 2 timeouts, and they got bailed out one time when Buffalo called a timeout because they weren't lined up. The play clock was at 0.
But did you hear what my black coach said after the game?
Mike McDaniels?
Yes. He said that he thought the 4th and 1 was a first down. That don't have nothing to do with why you didn't get to play in before the delay of game. First of all, that's first of all. Second of all, why did you think it was a first down when nobody changed the cards?
Did he think they deserved the first down? Is that
no?
What
he said that he thought that they converted the first down. Right. So he was confused on what down it was. Which my point is, it doesn't matter what down it was. Get the damn play in.
It's January, bro. You can't be confused.
Get the damn play in. And not only that, to be fair, I did see a replay, but it was a still photo. I did see something that made me think that they got the first down. But at the same time, first down, 4th down, 3rd down, whatever, get the damn play in.
Get 25 seconds.
You already got a quarterback that doesn't play very often, your 3rd string quarterback. Buffalo already outgained you by 200 yards. Josh Allen tried to give you late Christmas presents.
He's out there point shaving.
You went 4 for 15 on third down. Josh Allen, we talked about, is he Brett Favre or is he Jay Cutler? But I thought about it actually. I thought about it since we had that conversation. He reminds me a little bit. Now, this guy didn't turn it over that way, but he reminds me a little bit of Donovan McNabb when he first got Deshaun Jackson. It was literally like, I'm going to run around this pocket. I'm going to sit here because I don't care how long it takes. My receiver is going to get open. And if the deep ball wasn't there, deer in headlights, turnover slash getting sacked or holding on to the ball too long. So that was the moment. That was what I thought of, and I even thought of Aaron Rodgers from this season a little bit, where we're used to Aaron Rodgers flicking the wrist and just getting rid of it, but this season he was just kind of like, "You guys gonna get open today?" So Josh Allen scares me because since you want to go all preview on me, he scares me because since they play Cincinnati this week. Cincinnati is losing these offensive linemen, dropping like flies, but Josh Allen is losing the football. So I have no idea how he goes forward because he's going to either make a fool out of me and just go out there and look like the Josh Allen that everybody knows he's capable of being, or he's going through something.
Thinks Josh Allen is good. He's a good quarterback. But I think the problem is he is treated like a great quarterback, and he's treated like an invincible quarterback, and he's not treated like a quarterback that is presented with the game plan that he's supposed to execute. It feels like he created the game plan and you're watching him execute
it. You know what's crazy to me? And you'll appreciate this as a Laker fan. Whenever I see Josh Allen do these things from the pocket, it reminds me of a Russell Westbrook heat check. Like he just literally is like, hey, the coach called a crossing route and I'm going to throw a 30-yard pass just to make sure like that I can get away with it.
I don't understand the play calling in Buffalo. I don't understand the play calling in the NFL with teams that have a quarterback that just got his big contract. I get that this person's got their big contract, but you don't have to validate ownership's signing of the person by essentially demanding that they're constantly showing off what they can do. It's so many times in an NFL game where you can just hit the check down. But that can be your first read. Literally down in distance. You want to get the ball in your hands of your running back. I mean, you can, like, these wide receivers are such dynamic athletes. Motion them to the backfield, hit them in the flat. Like, there's so many ways to scheme guys open. And I'm watching these games. Like, I had a bet on Zeke Elliott one game, and my parlay was over under 11 and a half yards receiving. So I took the over. The part of the parlay was over. 11 and a half yards receiving. I'm like, okay, you got Zeke. This one they had Cooper Rush. So I'm like, all right, check it down. You got a backup quarterback. Not like a highly touted backup. Not like you had like Nick Foles as a backup or someone that has some experience like Mitchell Trubisky who's, been in the playoffs, something like that. You don't have like the Jameis Winston backup. You have Cooper Rush. Like, I think he got cut by Dallas a couple years ago and they brought him back this past offseason. So you got a guy, you know what? This is gonna be check down Sunday. Check down first down. I'm like, boom, Pollard, Zeke, check down, CeeDee Lamb, couple passes, 25 to 28 passes max for my backup quarterback. And they got backup quarterbacks out there throwing 40 passes. And I get that the rules help them out, but I don't see that many defensive holding calls and pass interference calls and illegal contact penalties to leverage that many passes. And you get automatic first downs, but it doesn't happen that often. And if you're just simply Jacksonville against LA, they were playing the pass from the opening snap. They only played the run on first down because they knew Los Angeles didn't run on second down. So when you have Josh Allen, I think people just think like, okay, he can do all of these things. Yes, but can he throw the check down? Can he throw the slant route to this dude Shakir who made that great catch deep? He's your slot guy. Hit him short. Your slot guy is more like a punt returner, kind of like athlete anyway. Just hit him short. Or Stephon Diggs. If Stephon Diggs is one-on-one, okay, boom. Let him do his thing because he's an exceptional wide receiver. So that matchup makes sense. But it seems as if because these guys get paid and they are dynamic, you're going to run that. Well, your backup is nowhere near as dynamic as your starter. So why are you overusing the singular attribute that you have when you have multiple people? Gabe Davis, Stephon Diggs, Shakir, Dawson Knox. All four of those guys can get you catches in traffic. Why aren't you throwing simple passes to them? Like, why are you overusing your one guy?
Yeah, don't forget Cole Beasley. And, don't forget that we do not condone gambling on this show.
We're not gambling experts. If you want to get, have fun with it.
And also, I would like for Jalen Waddle to catch the football, and I would like for Tyreek Hill, who originally I had in the MVP conversation after about week 5, I would like him to not drop passes in playoff games, but it's not a perfect world. It's not a perfect world, and Kirk Cousins is not perfect. So when I look at the Minnesota Vikings, it played out kind of how I thought. I thought Minnesota would win, but it played out how I thought. Minnesota's secondary is slow. And the Giants, if nothing else, have speedy wide receivers that may not be the best receivers in the league, but they can create space, especially when they're playing against somebody slow. So the reason I wanted to go there next is because there is a difference in Josh Allen from last year to this year. And the only difference I could think of is the offensive coordinator, who happens to be the Giants coach right now. But I don't want to get caught up. I don't want to get.
Read something very similar to that today. I heard somebody else say it maybe 2 days ago.
Look,
Tuesday? Yeah, I heard the same thing.
I cannot sit here and take away anything from Daniel Jones. I cannot. That man showed up, probably played the best game of his career. But I'm not getting caught up in it. I'm not getting caught up in it. I want to see him against this Eagles secondary.
Listen, man, I'm going to go ahead and call it spade a spade. The Giants are going to give Daniel Jones a lot of money. And they're going to be like, man, I really should save some of that money. We're in our sports group. A couple of Giants fans. And what they going to say now? They'll pull some obscure stat. I remember we had the Facebook comment section was litty. It was like 71 comments in it because this guy was talking about deep passes. I'm like, and he said Daniel Jones had the deepest pass. No, he threw a pass like it was like a 12-yard dig route. Somebody took it 62 yards or 75 yards. And this was last season. Justin Herbert threw a pass 62 yards in the air. He had the stat confused, and he posted it saying that, Daniel Jones' longest pass was 75 yards, and Justin Herbert's only 62. Well, Justin Herbert's pass was 62 yards in the air, and the guy caught it at the goal line for a touchdown.
Hey, first of all, I am not going to let you besmirch Daniel Dom's Appreciation Day. I am not going to let you get away with that.
Okay, what you talking about is Daniel Dom's appreciation. Listen, I think
this is the best game of his career.
It is, but the problem is he's going to get paid this offseason, 5th-year option, but you give him like $30 million for 5th-year options, or does his agent say, hey, if they win this weekend, are you giving Daniel Jones $200 million?
I mean, personally, I'm not, but the Giants probably are.
So with me, and that's why like I lean on these wins and losses and things like that. It's like, do you think the guy you have is a $200 million guy?
Mm-hmm.
When I get the wins and losses factor in, but if he got one more win, you would think he was a $200 million guy. You would think that at the snap. So that's my conundrum when it comes to Daniel Jones, because yes, he's done a good job. He didn't fumble, but really he is playing like a good rookie. But he's in his fourth, fifth year. He's about to get big money, and he's playing like the way you expect a 6 overall pick to play in his first year. Don't turn the ball over. Barely, I think he's just shy, I think maybe total 22, 23 total touchdowns on the year. Those are like numbers you want from Zach Wilson this year.
Is that what Tyler Huntley would get if he started the whole season?
If Tyler Huntley started the whole season, it'd be around that 16 to 18 total touchdown. 2,900 yards passing, maybe 3,000. If he plays 17 games, he gets you about 190 to 210 yards a game. He might scramble, get you 3-4 touchdowns. But that's what you're getting from Daniel Jones, and that's cool. And I get you. You pay who you love. Like everybody can't have Patrick Mahomes and offer him a contract. Everybody can't have Josh Allen and offer him a contract. Everyone can't have Dakota Prescott and offer him a contract. But you can also look at Kyler Murray and say, well, we think our guy's better than Kyler Murray, so we're going to give him a bigger contract than Kyler Murray, because you got to look at the fact that you give up 35% of your cap to one player, and he doesn't have any information, any plays that say, I am worth you losing defensive tackle, linebacker, safety, a tight end, a wide receiver. Like, because you're gonna lose a few of those pieces if you give this guy $35 to $40 million a year. It's just the math doesn't work out. Patrick Mahomes, you can not pay Tyreek Hill $30 million and still get 5,000 yards out of Patrick Mahomes. You got to pay Kelsey. You got to pay somebody. You can't just get rid of everybody. But you can't not pay Saquon or lose Saquon this offseason and then give Daniel Jones $200+ million and think you're going to improve on the season you've had this year.
So 2 things I took away from this game. On Daniel Dimes' Appreciation Day, I will have you know that he had 4 receivers catch between 6 and 9 catches. He was throwing the rock all over the yard, and Minnesota's attempt to stop them were futile. And everybody always
Pass
says,
defense is like 28th.
and everybody always talks about,
Your
he does.
point differential is negative.
He does the things that he does because of the threat of Saquon Barkley. That makes sense to me, but I just want people to know that with Saquon having 9 carries, we ended up with a Daniel Dimes Appreciation Day because he took over the game. Saquon Barkley rushed for 9. He had 9 carries for 53 yards. Obviously, that was a game plan thing. And I don't know why Minnesota did not watch. I don't know why Minnesota didn't watch any film, because one of the things that I know I said last week when we discussed this was run, Forrest, run. Daniel Jones' legs were going to play a big role in this game. So apparently I knew that, but the Vikings did not. They did not know that.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins with the chains on the airplane doing the shmoney dance and all that.
What was it? Kirk Thuggins? Yeah.
Kirk you like
Thuggins.
that. I mean, you like that. You like that. I like Kirk Cousins.
I like Kirk Cousins. I wanted him to stay in Washington. I wanted him to be the quarterback that would lead us to the next decade. What I don't like is John Harbaugh's management of the clock.
I was on the road for this part too.
This man.
this like I said, I was talking to my son. He was breaking it down to me. He was like, "All right, so with 1:07 they had a first down," and I was like, "Okay," and he was like, "They didn't snap the ball until it was like 38 seconds left." was like, what?
It was more like a minute and 13, and they didn't snap it until 34 seconds, and they called a run play.
I was like, we talked about this before. That I don't understand the starting quarterback and the backup quarterback drop off and how it's that significant. I get that there's 32 guys who are starting quarterbacks and maybe 2-3 guys who are backups that could be starters.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't understand. Tom Brady in that same situation, ball at the 18-yard line, first down. You just completed a pass for a first down. You got the ball at the 18-yard line. You're down 7, minute 7 left. Tom Brady either is getting up and clocking it. And I was like, even if he threw a 50-yard pass, 45-year-old Tom Brady is sprinting up to the line. He's getting everybody set. And either he has a play called, and they're going to snap it around the play, or they're going to clock it by 58 seconds. Worst case scenario, he loses 8 to 10 seconds because he has to get from the 25 all the way down the field, like on a 30, 40-yard pass. But even with that, he's getting there, getting people set. He's screaming stuff out as he's running up. They huddled up, substituted, and I get, you don't want Cincinnati to get the ball back. But you still can get another first down at the 8-yard line and work the clock from there. Maybe you score a touchdown to go for 2. That's in your DNA. But to stall when you don't have the points, that's what people do on video games. I play dudes that play Madden to do that. I'm like, why are you stalling? You don't have the points yet. Get the points or get to the 1. Yeah, you're probably going to score from the 1.
As I mentioned,
he did that from the 18 with a backup quarterback who doesn't know. Like, I would have called him off. Like, no, don't sub anybody in. Let me clock it then. You had 2 timeouts. I clock it or I call a timeout. One of the, like, those are only 2 options. A sub shouldn't have been an option.
As I mentioned before, we do not condone gambling, but John Harbaugh must be all over that roulette table, man. Like, this dude is literally, like, I still remember the Pittsburgh game.
Well, he on that game with the bad odds when you like spin that big wheel. This roulette table has function. It's odds. It's like good things you can do. It's like, okay, you put enough money on the table, you can win. He's out there just like, you know what? I'm in a panic. I'm just gonna just put $20 on this. It's like symbols on that thing. It's like, oh, the diamond. I'm just gonna put 20 here and spin this big giant wheel. It didn't make any sense. I don't understand. Once again, how I can sit in my room and just look at these things and like, I don't get it. Like, just call the timeout. Just call the timeout. You can still, like I said, you can call the timeout as soon as you get the first down. You got 1 timeout left. You got a minute 7 from the 18-yard line. And then you say, hey, we got 1 timeout left. I want to get this ball in the end zone. I don't want to leave them any time. But if this play call we call gets Andrews open, you throw it. Stay in bounds, whatever you want to do to keep the clock running so you don't get a ball back to Joe Burrow. I understand that, but ultimately you gotta manage the clock better. That's what Jeff Saturday did against Pittsburgh. It's like, how you blow over 2 minutes with timeouts and ran out of time.
Well, the craziest part is that drive. The drive started with 3:46 left on the clock. That's the crazy part about it. They did all this in 3 minutes. And I mean, granted, they wasted 40 seconds, so whatever. But they had more than enough time. This was not a hurry up situation where you started with a minute 10 and you got no timeouts. But I don't know. But what got me about this game was Cincinnati went 7 for 13 on third downs. Like, Baltimore just simply couldn't get off the field in those scenarios. But what made it even more confusing for me was Joe Mixon had 11 carries for 39 yards. So it wasn't as if there was a lot of 3rd and 2 going on and he was just
Tom McVay coaching tree.
Yeah, I guess so.
Really, LA Chargers, they went 8 for 19 on third down.
It's just weird to me. And of course, like I mentioned, Cincinnati lost another lineman. So the first 2 were the right tackle and right guard. This time they lost the left tackle, Jonah Williams. So, going into this Buffalo game, their offensive line is put together with chewing gum, and I still don't know if I'm confident enough to pick Buffalo. Like that's what's got me crazy about it.
I'd be confident enough to pick Cincinnati because in the Tennessee game last year, he got sacked 9 times.
Well, real quick before we move on, I just gotta say, I am so interested in this game from the psychological standpoint, because that was the game, obviously, where the Damar Hamlin situation happened. But more than that, Cincinnati's reaction afterwards, once we found out that he was okay, and then they were upset about the home field advantage. They were upset about this and that. Like, I want to see psychologically, like, is Cincinnati going to come out, for lack of better words, ready to kick Buffalo's ass? Like,
It's in Buffalo.
Forget winning the game. Is Cincinnati coming out there for blood?
It might be tough, man. Is it in Cincinnati?
No, it's in Buffalo. It's in Orchard Park.
Yep. In Buffalo, they'll be wearing different colored jerseys. So they'll be wearing the blue home jerseys. So that might help. I'm pretty sure the 3s on the field will be outlined in red because I know the Colts did it. They outlined the 3, so it's red and white for Damar Hamlin's number. He might come to that game.
Dude, I just want Zach Taylor.
I think he might come to that game. I think he might go like the press box to that game. He didn't come last week.
I just want Zach Taylor to walk out onto the field.
If he walks out for the coin toss, it's a wrap.
I want him to walk out there and flat out
42-0.
And pardon my age, but Kellen Winslow, I'm a soldier. I need Zach Taylor to walk out to midfield and just say, "I declare war." You know what I mean? We need to, like, Cincinnati. I'm telling you, all I heard for a week straight was how upset they were. They were whining. They were up. They were legitimately upset, but they were whining. They had the coin toss.
Walk out.
Yeah, they had the coin toss touchdown celebration.
He gonna
love
stand
it.
3.
Yes. So dude,
stand on the 3.
This is the game.
Bills Mafia is gonna go bananas. And
this is the game we deserve. The only problem is we deserve it in the AFC Championship game, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Man, we got Chiefs in that. We good though.
But
promise though, Jacksonville versus KC.
What we don't have in the championship game is Luka Doncic. We don't have Luka in the championship game, but I will let the record show that Luka Doncic led his team to the Western Conference Finals last year. So, as we decided to talk about Luka Doncic, one of the things that I took away is that Luka suffers from Eminem syndrome. There's Eminem came out as the white rapper that had skill and had everybody going crazy, and people just didn't like it. People were just like, "Yo, like, I'm done with the Eminem thing. Put that Jay-Z back on." So with this Luka thing, a lot of people are like, "Hey, James Harden didn't get this type of coverage when he was having triple doubles and all this kind of stuff. Joel Embiid isn't getting this attention, even though he's having a great season. And some are even saying Donovan Mitchell's 71-point game didn't get the attention to the level of the attention that Luka gets. So just for giggles, Mr. Rutley here is
real funny in a minute. I'm listening.
Yeah, if LeBron has a beehive, like Raph is a member. You know what I mean?
Listen, I just am a fan of greatness, and I'm objective.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get overly emotional about it. I just look at facts, numbers, impact, and I call it like I see it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't have a negative Luka take. I think all the accolades that he's getting are warranted. I think they're legit, without a doubt. The issue is we've already seen a guy do this. So the only variable I think just kind of get missed is that everyone is looking for like the next guy, and they want to crown the next guy. They want to talk about how exceptional this guy is, and he's going to be the next guy. But it's as if we forgot about the 8-year run, even go with the 9 out of 10-year run by one guy. Granted, yes, he has a team. Basketball is a team sport. But that run is unprecedented. So when people wanted to put certain players above him, like Kawhi and Paul George, they wanted to do what the NFL is doing to Patrick Mahomes. I won't say doing, what the media pundits who speak about the NFL, the conversation are having around some of these new young guns compared to Patrick Mahomes, compared to Tom Brady. It's like this. They're allowing Tom Brady to go untouched. GOAT. He's Leonardo da Vinci. You can't touch his art. He's way out here. Even though he's still currently playing, and you can still look at like, yo, they had less points on the season than the Bears. These are all facts, but that conversation can be had because he's way out here. Mm-hmm. Patrick Mahomes was getting compared to Brady, and he's gonna be the next GOAT. Parallel LeBron, he was getting compared to Jordan. Well, people are like, oh, he's not better than Kobe. So like it started. I think people were just kind of upset about the comparison, and they felt it was too early. So any opportunity people got to try to pick another guy, I was like, oh, this guy is better than LeBron. It just never came to fruition. Even head-to-head matchups, like where he literally made all these dudes leave the East and go West. And then when he went West, all these dudes in the West went East. Like, these are things that happen. These are things that we all saw publicly occur. We saw after his team defeated Golden State after being down 3-1, story has it that Draymond Green called Kevin Durant from the parking lot. Like, he didn't even go home yet. He didn't even let the loss sink in. He left this. He was in the stadium parking lot and called him. So I think what was happening with Luka is that people want him to be that guy, but I don't think people recognize how difficult it was for that 9 out of 10 years for LeBron, because I think people think it's easy because he did it. Because he did lose in the finals. So I think people are just kind of misconstruing the journey because he didn't get the ultimate prize at the end, because he's 4-6 in the finals. But if you look at it, has Kawhi gone to 5 conference finals? No.
He has not.
Paul George, Melo, that was being compared to him, Embiid, Jokic, Giannis is making his run. So if you just look at that run, even Dwayne Wade on LeBron's team, he wasn't carrying guys for that many years in a row. So with Luka, I like that people want another guy. Mm-hmm. I just wish that they would want another guy, but not heap so much praise on him when we have the receipts of the level of accomplishments that they send it to, considering that we do have a guy in the league that's about to break the all-time scoring record, but yet people refer to him.
Yeah, he's about 320 points away. Not an exact number, but he's in that.
He's about to break it like either before or after the All-Star break or something. Like the math works out somewhere mid to late February.
Well, I just can't wait until Luka, Kawhi, and DeAndre Ayton team up in Sacramento and take the league by storm and win not 1, not 2, not 3. That's what I'm waiting for. Because
that's what you have to have in order to outshine one dude. If you need that much, the Boston 3 Party, if you need that much to beat out one guy, imagine. And when Jordan went back to back to back, 91, 92, 93, imagine Grant Hill, Shaq, Penny Hardaway, and Barkley all went to the same team just to beat Jordan. You'd be like, this is crazy. Why are all these guys going to one team to beat Jordan? That conversation never happened with LeBron. Clearly, when he took out Detroit by himself, 26 straight points, 48 points, whatever the case may be, Boston put their own like little super team together. Granted, these guys were past their prime. They were in their 20s, like 29 and 30. Like they weren't 40-year-old Cage, 40-year-old Ray Allen. It was like Ray Allen played more years and got another chip with LeBron. So it wasn't like he was on his last leg.
Yeah.
These guys had great years of basketball left on top of the experience that they had that already earned. But they put that team together because LeBron was going to take over the East. And then he put his own team together that was a little better. It was like, was it MySpace versus Facebook? He made Facebook, and then he went down to Miami, and then he took over. But like I said, for 8 years, 9 out of 10 years, man, that's a hell of a run. And these guys have talent. Steph, Dame, John, Joel Embiid, Kawhi Leonard, all these guys, they have NBA talent. If you just rate them on them and against themselves, it'll make more sense. But comparing them to what LeBron did is just the numbers don't match up.
And I just want the record to show, real quick, that you people out there can give Kevin Durant all the crap you want. But the Warriors were the punks that brought him in the first place. So give them some of that criticism too. But anyway, I digress.
But yeah, my conversation is about Draymond Green calling from the park line and flying out to
I don't even care about that part. Like, as Steph Curry, this is your team or whatever the case may be. You're the chief here, so you decided to defer and let this man come in so that way you could win more titles instead of going out on the court and getting to get back against your rival. But
they could have ran it.
Yeah, he could have ran it back. All they needed was Harrison Barnes to play a little bit better, or a dude that was at Harrison Barnes level.
I think they went. Whatever he went, 0 for 10, 1 for 11, whatever he went. If he goes 2 for 8, 3 for 9, 3 for 8, I think they win. I think
you know what I'm saying? It's that simple. So they overkilled is what they did. But we're looking at the numbers. And I don't know why this number that I found chose 245 games. But in their first 245 games, LeBron James averaged 26.5 points, 6.6 rebounds, 7.9 assists, and had 61 double-doubles. Luka, in that same 245 game sample, had 26.1 points, 8.5 rebounds, 7.9 assists, and 121 double-doubles. Now, before I go any further, that's the only Luka-LeBron comparison I'm going to make in this conversation. I just wanted to put that out there for context. So, where I'm going to go next with this. This season, Luka's PER is 30.6 with an average of 25.2 in his career. Now, granted, it's only a 4-year career. We're still early in his career. But the reason that I bring that up is because earlier in this conversation, I stated how people were upset that Harden wasn't getting the same type of shine, for doing things that Luka is doing. But Harden's career PER is 24.5. And just for giggles, rest in peace, Mamba. I pulled up Kobe Bryant's PER for his career. Now, granted, you got to take into a nutshell the early part of that first year and the way his career ended, taking all that into consideration. His PER for his career was 22.9. So all I'm saying is that Luka is on a track. I don't think anybody will ever do what LeBron did that you mentioned with the finals appearances consecutively in that way. But I think he ultimately does have an argument to be the next. I think that he ultimately, I don't know if he'll play long enough to get close to LeBron's new point record. I think that record will stand.
He's going to get paid too much money too early to keep going. And now look at Dirk. You see Dirk? I watched Dirk playing pickleball yesterday. He's not moving well.
Yeah, that
up a little earlier. Dirk moved like he played offensive tackle. I watched him play pickleball. It was not good.
That record is going to last longer than when Kareem had it. I think that's a given.
It'll last forever.
Yes, and I think that with a player like Luka, you just got to take the good with the bad. Because the reason that I wanted to compare him to LeBron in that short moment that I did was because I was looking at the teams of LeBron's teams going through the East, winning 66 games or whatever it was. And I would tell all these LeBron fans that this is not the year. This is not the year. And then they would go lose in the playoffs, and people would say, well, what do you expect? He had Mo Williams. Yeah, he had Mo Williams when you thought he was going to win the title, too. So with
I
Luka,
never win the title. I never thought that they would beat Detroit. Detroit just seemed like the perfectly structured basket.
mhm,
It seemed like everybody had a role that they played so exceptionally well. So when he beat them, not when the Cavs beat the Pistons and to get to the finals, I knew there wasn't a shot. You said it was like the closest 4-game sweep you can recall, and they said the same thing about the Boston
yep. And
Brooklyn
you know
sweep.
I've said that on many occasions.
Yeah,
Yeah. And it really was. So that was the series, even though they lost, even though it was a sweep, that was the series where I said, I still don't think he's better than Kobe just yet, but it's coming. There was no doubt in my mind that he was going to surpass Kobe after that,
but
and
this is the thing with the, and I understand like people want to like kind of compare these guys. I mean, you have an all-time great still playing.
I actually hate it.
He's a polarizing figure.
Hmm.
They talk about him all the time. We try not to talk about it too much because there's so many things going on in sports. But if we just look at the numbers, not analytics, just basic, just numbers.
Hmm.
LeBron's 5 seasons in LA. Grant's only played 257 games. I mean, the guy's old.
Right.
Luka's played 304 games in 5 seasons. LeBron's played 257. So these are Luka's career numbers.
Hmm.
27.3 points, 8.1 assists, 8.6 rebounds. This is LeBron with the Lakers.
Hmm.
Just the Lakers. 27.4 points, 8.1 assists, 8.1 rebounds.
Ain't that something?
So that's just his last 5 years with Lakers. So that's Luka's whole 5 year
Right. Right.
5 season with the Lakers. Some of that stuff can be pat, stat padding, but for the most part, you got to be out there. You got to be out there.
I just thought it was interesting to look at those two, not because I was trying to prove the point or say that Luka is as good or better or any of those things. I just thought it was interesting that the numbers were that comparable.
Yeah, but and that's the thing. The comparability of the numbers is that it just shows how much. It just shows
It
like
shows how much more dominant LeBron is when you
is. I mean,
factor in
for
the
lack of
age.
a word, like, I mean, people look at wins and championships, and that'll be like the end all be all. But I'm like, you can't. You got to have your individual numbers. You play 82 regular season games; those numbers count. Those games count. We've seen them; they're recorded. You have all that information; they count. You have to be a factor in your 82 games in order to get your placement for the playoffs and get your preparedness for the playoffs. It's not like you just show up in August, training camp through September, start playing games sometime in October, and then April comes around and your team's good to go, and you didn't do anything for the last 82 games. And I think because I think the media push for championships and people just kind of just the argument being, we've discussed it being a lazy argument of like, oh, how many
Right.
versus win percentage in the gym. Like, no, it's impact. Like, are you a talented basketball? Are you a talented player at your sport? Are you a talented football player? Are you a talented guard? Are you a talented basketball player? Are you a good pitcher? Are you a good manager? Are you a good GM? Like, all these things factor in. If you're gonna just say, oh, they got a championship out of it, that's not enough just for your argument. It's enough for people to care. Like, I know people care about it. I know it matters. I know, like, you guys get these rings, they matter, and then the camaraderie they get from winning these championships. But in the same sense, that can't be just the only argument when there are other bits of information, i.e., 2 players have more than 38,000 points in a regular season, and so one's LeBron.
So if championships are overrated, then how much?
I think they matter. They're not overrated. I think they're just
No, I got you. I'm going somewhere with this.
Okay, I'm listening.
So if championships are overrated, then how much does the youngest MVP in NFL history get paid?
$23 million. and he's about to get franchise tagged
So
for
if you're Baltimore right now, here and now, you give him the Brinks truck.
nope.
Interesting. I thought you were going to say yes.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't because I wouldn't pay him the $300 million. We'll say we'll go with the Deshaun contract, 230 guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't give him that because at some point you're gonna have to fire your offensive coordinator. I don't like condoning people getting fired, losing their jobs, but this is year after year after year of you being a running tight end, pass heavy, you pass the tight end a lot. You don't get any wide receiver threats. You draft running backs, but you don't give them the ball. Like the play calling, it's so elementary that you're just resting on our defense is super tough and strong. And me and you can sit down and game plan and probably defeat the Ravens.
Well, it's odd to me.
So you got to get rid of the coordinator before you pay him.
It's odd to me because just my personal opinion, when I look at the Ravens, they are, in my eyes, a top 2 or 3 team when it comes to how successful and how well they draft.
Where?
I mean,
think so. I'm telling you, it's smoke and mirrors.
Okay, but all right.
Who's your offensive threat?
That's where I was about to go. So where I'm confused is how come they can't either draft a receiver or why won't they just go get one? I mean, if Bill O'Brien was dangling DeAndre Hopkins out there, why do you not make a play? If Devontae Adams is like, yo, I want to go play with my buddy, hey, dude, do you want to play with your buddy or do you want to make the playoffs?
They don't. It's like if you don't like Thai food, and your buddy's like, "Yo, come with me to my favorite restaurant." Like, what is it? It's Thai. You're my buddy. We can be friends. We can be cool. We can hang out. But I'm not coming there because if you look at like I said, it's smoke and mirrors.
But why don't free agent receivers go there?
Because I think the play calls I think the formations are 2 and 3 tight ends too often with a run component with the 2 and 3 tight ends. So it's not even like you're running 2 tight ends and 2 wide receivers. You're running 3 tight ends and you're just running the ball. So I'm out there running decoy routes or I'm blocking. And then when it is a pass play, the number one option on the pass is 1 and 2 tight ends. Or you bring in 3 tight ends, and that's your 1, 2, and 3 read. And I'm running routes again. Like, how many times have you seen not Buffalo, but Baltimore line up, no huddle, 4 or 5 wide receivers, 4 wide receivers and a tight end? Like in all the games you watch. It just even if it's just, 8 minutes left in the first quarter, like let's give them a different look. They never do. They run out there with 2 running backs, 2 tight ends, RPO, Lamar's keeping it. It's pedestrian to the point where if you got a guy having a bad blocking day, you're 2nd and 13. Yeah, Lamar's dynamic, but your players shouldn't be dynamic to the point where it doesn't even match your playbook. Like what he's doing doesn't match the playbook. It was like Vic back in the day. Like Vic looked super dynamic, but he was like, listen, I won't even look at the playbook. He was like, if I got on the edge, I just used my speed. So it looked like Atlanta had like this great offense, but really what it was like, I'm just going to run.
So I always try to pride myself on being a little pragmatic. And, when I did the 4 lenses test, I came out as a green, the logical guy, all this kind of stuff. So I thought about this.
I was completely even all the way around.
I thought about this and I said, the last 2 years, my season has ended because this dude isn't available. And when I look at it, this is my question to you. There was a report by Brian DeArdo from CBS Sports that detailed that this past offseason, Lamar Jackson turned down a 6-year deal that had $133 million guaranteed. Is he going to regret that?
No.
Or is somebody going to, if the Ravens obviously don't play ball, is somebody going to just destroy their team to sign this guy?
Well, what you're going to get is understanding that I personally wouldn't sign him to a guarantee because, like, I think you're going to have to get rid of the offensive coordinator.
Right.
So unless you can find a coordinator and playmakers that fit the new coordinator's scheme and keep Lamar, I think it's just so many elements because the Greg Roman offense is, like I said, it's pedestrian. It's high school at best. So you're going to have to get rid of him. Got to bring another coordinator in. In order to know that it could work, you have to give it a year. So he's going to get franchise tag. He doesn't want to play without guarantees. You had 2 years to make this deal with him. Another franchise tag gives him this year, then they can franchise him again.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's going to be 40 plus million. 40.
So according to DeArdo's article, the same article, a franchise tag next year would be $45.2 million.
And then he gets a top 3
right
next year. Keep in mind, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, they're going to get their deals.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to get their Josh Allen, 65, Russell Wilson deal. So, like Marlo said, the price of the bricks going up.
So why not? So why not sign him or just cut your ties? Why play the franchise game?
Because he is a talent and he's going to play theoretically. You want him to play. You want to have him. But if you're not going to have an offensive coordinator design a package of plays around his skill set, then you won't be able to get the players in. Because you can't run it back with this 3 tight ends, Mark Andrews thing again, and hope you can play this 2000 Ravens defense and Trent Dilfer leads you to the Super Bowl. Like, you can't keep resting on that. You can't keep resting on Joe Flacco completing 56% of passes during a regular season and turning into Joe Montana in the playoffs. Like, that's not sustainable. Your defense is sustainable. You have an identity on defense. Your defensive identity does not match your offensive identity, which is non-existent. They even got 2 backup quarterbacks that try to play like mini Lamar Jackson.
The wish version.
Playbook. Their playbook is so. Their playbook. Cooper Rush won like 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
When Dak was out.
Mm-hmm.
You need a playbook for the NFL that you can plug and play. You're not going to get, if you put in the backup in Kansas City, you're not going to get Patrick Mahomes' numbers, but you can call those plays, those ring around the rosy plays, and then the flea flickers and all that stuff. But you can also run Kelsey up the seam and run, these other guys on drag routes across line. So you can still run offensive wide receiver type plays. Baltimore doesn't have that.
Are you saying that NFL teams should train their airmen to replace them?
It's just, it doesn't make sense to me that we, as a group of fans and the talking heads, have said for years, you can't keep running Lamar, you're going to get him hurt. And your offense is too predictable. Your defense is stout. Your offense is predictable. Defense is going to give up something. Somebody's going to, the Miami game. The 2 rookies out there not communicating. They're in cover 2. They think they're in man. Or they're supposed to be in man. Dude runs cover 2. Waddle and Tyreek Hill are running right past them. They're yelling at each other trying to figure it out. And they got it figured out. But they haven't figured out the offense in years. You double Andrews is a wrap.
All right, so last question to wrap this up. If everything hits the fan and we get a surprise, give me 2 teams that Lamar could end up on.
Atlanta has cap.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't mind it. Because I think in Atlanta, it's run heavy, but there's pass plays built in. Just Marcus Mariota just couldn't. He couldn't make those types of throws. They called the plays. You could just tell like he didn't throw the deep route. And on top of that, the wide receiver room in Atlanta wasn't great. I think
Well,
you have.
I feel like he was on a mission to get Drake London killed, like literally.
He literally like that. Arthur Smith and Drake London and Kyle Pitts should fight. London
They're gonna have
Pitts.
you want them to have a triple threat match?
Nah, London and Pitts versus Smith for calling that. I knew it was coming. I watched every game, and they'd run Zacchaeus. He'd go in motion, left to right or right to left, and then he would do like the loop. They never threw it to him. Never. They never threw that little loop to him. Mm-hmm. It's like no one's falling for that in week 8. They didn't fall for it in week 1, 2, 6, 9. Just if you throw it, just throw it to him.
Yeah.
They wouldn't. They would throw the slant on the backside, and the free safety would just come down and just. Kyle Pitts, 6'5", 6'6", 200-something pounds. He had to hit him low, sprained his PCL, maybe strained it. So he was done for the season. And Drake London got his helmet knocked off so many times I can't even count.
So for me, and of course this is dependent on a lot of moving parts. But depending on what's happening with Byron Leftwich, I think I might like to see him in Tampa. With Mike Evans, and I don't know if you can keep Godwin, if you pay him. So that's a whole nother issue. I would say the Raiders, but Josh McDaniel don't deserve them. So I'm not going to say the Raiders. I'm not going to say the Raiders.
Listen, Dean Orley on the Falcons wire said ESPN analyst says Falcons would be perfect fit for Lamar Jackson. That was 2 hours ago.
Hey, it's a good fit, but I just wanted to say a different team since you already said the Falcons.
We got to trade his. You got to get it.
But I also I don't like the fact they have a defensive head coach, but I think the Jets could work. They got some young talent going on over there. That might be beneath Lamar at this point, but I think that might be a good fit. But
they have a better room than Atlanta, I'll tell you that.
They do, But since I mentioned Byron Leftwich, we might as well talk about it. So we'll go ahead and probably table the NBA talk to the next show, but let's get into this Byron Leftwich real quick because I don't know if he's fired or not.
As 3 hours ago, he wasn't fired.
Yeah, and as of this morning when I was on Twitter, 2-bit reports. That's what I saw was that he was fired. I saw it on Facebook. I saw it just about everywhere. I Googled it myself to have an outside, and I saw it on like 3 or 4 different websites. But let's just say that he's not fired. Should he be?
No. The team, they shouldn't fire him simply because they are going to they're going to lose Tom Brady. Like, Brady's gone. So I would rather keep my coaching staff intact and see if the new guy that we bring in can work.
Okay.
It's evident that you have to be honest. Tom Brady wasn't listening and being coached hard in Tampa Bay when they everybody rolled out the red carpet for him. Miami tampered to try to get him. The Raiders were on the fence to get him, but John Gruden nixed that deal because Tom Brady would have been a bigger personality in Las Vegas than John Gruden. And then Tampa Bay rolled out the red carpet, paid him the money he wants, probably gave him private jet access, room access, allowed him to change the play sheet and playbook from the year he got there. Bruce Arians, that's why Bruce Arians moved up to, the big room in the sky, because it was like, listen, I want to call the shots here. I'm Tom Brady. I got 6 Super Bowls. I came down. I won you guys my 7th one. And then now you're this guy's telling me or talking about me in public like I'm not the reason that they're relevant now. Like, I can see he was talking to ownership. He didn't talk to the GM about retiring or unretiring. He talked to the owner. Anytime a player can go directly to the owner, i.e., what's happening in Dallas, what coach has a chance? Bruce Arians is a respected coach. He's gotten a lot of black coaches hired. He keeps black coaches on his staff. He's been on the staff in Indy, Pittsburgh. He's just a well-respected coach in the league. And Tom Brady came down and was like, listen, I'm the best there is. I'm a championship waiting to happen. You just got to play ball. And he was like, listen, I get it, but this is a team game. You know, you can't go to the wedding. You can't get your own masseuse. You can't have your trainer on the team playing. If you tell that to Tom, he's like, wow, I'm Tom Brady. He knows his value. Is he overplaying his card? Maybe, maybe not. Or should more players play the card that he plays? Maybe. But he knows he is money. I don't know how many people fill in that stadium with Blaine Gabbert starting a quarterback in September. I don't know how many 11 jerseys they're selling in Tampa Bay if Tom Brady leaves. But you can expect him to go. So I would keep Byron Leftwich. I wouldn't run Tom Brady. He's 40. He's about to be 46 years old. I think it's okay to say, you know what, if he went somewhere else and succeeded, he'd be like, all right, cool. We rolled the dice and thought that this 46-year-old guy wasn't going to be any good. If he was 26 and been to 3 or 4 Super Bowls, you're like, I don't know, I'm not sure. But he's 46. It's okay to say, you know what, hey, man, thank you. Go to Miami or wherever you're going to go next. But, yeah, I'd keep Leftwich. I'd keep my staff intact.
So if Kirk Cousins has earned the nickname Kirk Thuggins, does that make Tom Brady the geriatric gangster?
I don't like that at all.
So as you mentioned, he's about to turn 46. Just 2 years ago, Tampa Bay led the league in 6 different offensive categories. You know, so they are as follows: offensive points per game, 30-point games, fewest sacks allowed per pass attempt, passing yards per game, passing touchdowns, passing first downs, and pass completions. So obviously you turn around and you say, well, duh, they added Tom Brady. So I looked at 2019, which was the infamous 33-30 year for Jameis Winston that couldn't even see. You know, they were first in yards that season.
It's a W.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a W.
The crab leg, yeah.
Crab legs.
Mr. Publix. And they were also 4th in points per game that season. You know, even with their quarterback throwing 30 interceptions. Just last year, Byron Leftwich was interviewing for head coaching jobs. And this is where I wanted to ask you, you know, because just my question, when he went to Jacksonville and said, hey, I don't want to work with this GM, did he hurt himself? Like, not obviously not related to the Tampa Bay job, but just in general career-wise, did he hurt himself?
Twofold. We talked about this last week, too. What I think happened, and I think it might happen for just more than just black coaches, but especially for black coaches, I don't know if a coach getting hired for the first time really has the leverage to demand such a thing. Mm-hmm. But I respect the fact that he did it, because what it did was, if they would have hired him and got a new GM, it would have let him know, okay, they have my back, I got theirs, and then it also lets the people know that, you know, this guy's serious. He's serious about what he wants to do. He's serious about his craft.
And he loves Jacksonville.
Yeah, I tell this story a lot when I was talking about, like, so my first base, right? So I get to my first base. I'm sitting down at the table, 19 years old, airman, 2 stripes. I'm sitting down, and these NCOs were calling me Muttley, like that cartoon dog, that Snickers. Mm-hmm. My last name's Rutley, is clear. So they would call me Muttley. And I was flipping through the magazine. They were like, "Hey, Muttley." Like I flipped through the magazine, and they said it one more time. I looked up at him. I said, "Hey, Rutley, my name is Rutley." And I put my head back down. I kept flipping through the magazine. They're like, "Emory Rutley." I'm like, "Yes." And I stood up. So I let people know day one, I'm not going to just let you jerk me around and treat me like some, just because I'm 19 and I'm young and I'm new here, you can just sit there and just talk to me any kind of way you want. But I had leverage because I had a contract. What you going to be mad at me? And then what you going to say? Oh, we were calling him by a name that wasn't his name. Why would you do that? So I knew I was going to be able to have that kind of dialogue. So him going in there saying, "Hey, I don't want to do this." Lovie Smith saying, I guess there's a report out there that he was told not to win.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, okay. But they told him that they were going to fire him anyway. They told him he was going to be let go. Told him not to win. He's like, all right. He went out there and won anyway, and they fired him. But he's at the point in his career, it's like, listen, man, I've been to the Super Bowl. He's probably been coach of the year, won a lot of games. I've been coaching. He's in his 60s. He's like, man, I don't care about this. But that's his leverage. I think a lot of new, young coaches don't have the leverage. And I think Leftwich saying, you know what? I don't want to work with this guy who has this track record of being unsuccessful. Same thing with the Chargers GM. He's been there for 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
He still got his job.
Yep. And just for context,
There's so many people you picked, and you
mm-hmm.
keep your job.
And just for context, this guy Balky, he came in towards the end of the Harbaugh era in San Francisco, and he hired 3 head coaches prior to this meeting with Byron Leftwich, and these coaches are as follows: Mike Tomzula, Chip Kelly, and the infamous, the one and only Urban Meyer. These are the 3 coaches that this guy hired.
I don't know who believed the Urban Meyer hire was going to work. I was against it.
SEC fans.
Out of the mind. Don't work in the NFL. It just doesn't work.
It doesn't work. And so I don't think Leftwich should have been fired. And part of the reason I don't think Leftwich should have been fired outside of the things that we already discussed was Tampa Bay was basically pulling linemen off the street in week 1. So it wasn't even as if, they were doing good, got injuries in week 6 or something, and then it all fell apart. From the start of the season, they couldn't protect a 45-year-old quarterback. There was no way that was going to be successful. And, oh, by the way, they're last in the league in rushing, too. So, at some point.
They have less points than the Chicago Bears on the season.
Yeah, so at some point, you got to look at, there's an old joke, we talk about these college football teams like Minnesota and Iowa. And we always say, you just got to know who you are. You can have aspirations. We want you to reach for the sky, but you got to know who you are. So when Tampa lost those linemen and they could not run the ball for the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season.
On top of their limited commitment to running the ball anyway.
Right. Like so you kind of, what they did was say, just like last night, we have Tom Brady. We should win this game because we have Tom Brady. And all I say is, it ain't 2011 no more. So you cannot just walk Tom Brady on the field and say this game is ours. And
time is winning.
Yeah, and it's not as if.
It's not to disparage Tom.
No, not at all. It's not a Tom Brady thing per se. He's just the person in this moment that's dealing with it. But I don't think that you let go of a guy that was hot in head coaching searches and got interviews. One, just for having a bad year. So that's first and foremost, just for one bad year. Secondly, when you have a 45-year-old quarterback that when I hear people talk about why he isn't playing well, they say he was distracted by a divorce and all these things. So I'm going to lay that on somebody else's lap when he can't even get his shit together, so to speak. It just doesn't sit right with me. It doesn't sit right with me, and that is not what I wanted to get off my chest, but I want to know what you want to get off your chest.
I mean, I think we've been kind of talking about it. The ineptitude of some of these NFL coaches.
Love that word.
Then the subsequent like overreaction by GMs. I don't understand how GMs, presidents, people who run these teams are just willy-nilly firing people without really looking at, okay, what holistically did we have going on here? Because if you win that game with those 27 points, does he get fired? He got you 27 points. It's like when a guy, like in an NFL game, you get a quarterback, he throws a go-ahead touchdown, and then the other team goes back down, kicks the field goal, and wins. It's like, so it's a stain on the other guy's legacy who was on the sideline. He did everything he could. He did everything he could to get you position to win, and then another group of people fell short. The defense fell short. The head coach fell short because he didn't play to his strengths. Like, so you fire him. The only thing I can think of is like these firings have to come with like some kind of conversation that we're not privy to. Like he was in the locker room, like, let's don't blame me for that shit. Don't blame me for it. You messed up. You should have done this. Like, you know what? You're fired. It has to be that. It can't be anything you looked at analytically or even data-wise. They didn't call the right plays. Plays were executed. Jacksonville came out like gangbusters in the second half. He lost games. I'm just not the fire sale. What is it? What do they call it? Bloody Monday at the end, the first Monday at the end of the season.
Yeah, Black Monday or something
Black
like
Monday,
that. Yeah.
So it just, I don't know. I just feel like this isn't fantasy football. It's going to be trials and tribulations. You're going to have a game where someone blows a lead. But there's going to be other elements. And that can be the straw that breaks Campbell's back, i.e. Jeff Saturday. He got hired. He was not doing well. He wasn't managing the clock in certain games, managing the plays. He wasn't galvanizing the players. Didn't know how many times. Like, things like that. And then you blow a 33-point lead. It's like, okay, this is a pattern of you not understanding and coupled with the fact that you were inexperienced. Okay, that's enough to say, you know what, we got to go in a different direction. But Bill Belichick, Jacoby Myers throwing the bad pass backwards to Mac Jones and Chandler Jones picking it off, you don't look around and say, you know what, I got to fire Bill Belichick. But you can say, Matt Patricia, you did nothing all year. The offense didn't look great all year, and that occurred. Okay, you might be in over your head. You might be over your skis on this one. But I just think like Nathaniel Hack is another guy. Like, okay, you had to hire a guy to help you with the basic elements of your job. I work in an office when I'm dealing with aviation management. If my company had to hire another guy to help me make these PDF files. And it's like, why are we paying you? Like, we hired you first, and you were so in over your head that we had to hire another guy, and this other guy comes and is like, oh, this is a reason. Okay, well, we don't need you. Like, that's a reason to fire someone. But a guy like Dan Campbell, you could have thought, you know what, we shouldn't have started the season off poorly, but you ended well. But you're like, oh, we should have won 10 games, but you only won 9, you're going to get fired. I don't understand how these GMs and these player personalities, presidents of these teams make those kind of calls. So we'll see how it goes. I know Carolina's looking for a new coach, even though I think they got a coach in the house. I don't know why they're trying to pull Harbaugh and all those other coaches. But I just think that the teams who consistently fire coaches, I think the Raiders are paying 3 coaches. Census are probably playing a couple of coaches. If you're constantly firing coaches, hiring and firing coaches, then you need to really look around and say, Houston, is your GM really not the problem? Just because you got him from New England doesn't mean he's perfect. He's not impervious to criticism. Give him something. You picked 2 guys that were not built for today's NFL. You picked 2 guys who I think their age total was about 110. Like, I'm not trying to be dismissive of like older coaches, but you have a young team. You just lost your young quarterback through controversy. Got nothing back for him. What did they get back from Cleveland in that deal? They get any picks?
I'm sure they got picks, but
what picks?
You know,
They haven't been talking about him.
Your guess is as good as mine.
I know Denver got a good pick from Miami, and I know when Miami was
No,
making
Seattle got a
deals,
good
they got a
pick.
bunch of picks from San Francisco. So I know teams are making
Yes.
this.
Seattle got a good pick from Denver, yeah.
Denver gave up everything to get Russell Wilson. And I'm like, Houston, what you get? And then you don't have the number 1 pick. Okay, cool. You still can get CJ Stroud at number 2 if the Bears decide to take another quarterback. But once again, it's like these GMs and it's like they're playing fantasy football, and it's like, go back and watch how some of these 80s football teams operated. Yeah, but that's all I got to get off my chest right now.
Okay. And I also want to let everybody know out there that this show does not support ageism.
All right. I'll be right back.
All right. So, what do I have to get off my chest? So, I had a couple of different places that I could go. Just like last week, I told you I got problems. Apparently, I'm full of rage. But one of the things that stood out to me was the Ed Reed situation down at Bethune-Cookman, especially coming off of the heels of Deion Sanders and should he have stayed and should he have left. But I'll probably come back to that another day. What I'm going to go with today is something near and dear to me. We talked about college football playoff expansion earlier. So college basketball, March Madness is my jam, but where March Madness gets it wrong. Why do we have conference champions playing in the first 4? So, we have our 12 seeds, which are like our bubble teams, our last 4 in. I'm fine with them playing in the first 4. They're trying to get into the tournament. Like they're still fighting for position and jockeying to show that they are worth going into the tournament. But if I'm Little Mount St. Mary's, that was formerly of the Northeastern Conference, but is having their first year in the MAC Conference, the MAAC, not the Mid-American Conference. And, near and dear to my heart because they're a Maryland school. But if I go win this conference and I get this bracket and I see that I got to go play Texas Southern in the first 4, I'm looking at somebody and going, both of us won our conference. So if you're going to put my team from my conference in the first 4 or a mid-major in the first 4, then let it be a mid-major team that won the regular season conference title, but choked it up in the conference tournament, because I know there's a rule that protects these little schools like Mount St. Mary's that says that if you win the regular season title, you have a great chance of getting picked in the NIT. So that's fine and dandy. But if I earned my way through March Madness, because you told me that me winning my conference tournament, which is just a money grab, but you told me that if I won that tournament, I get an automatic bid. Automatic does not mean I play another team that won their automatic bid for the right to go get slaughtered by Kansas. That's not what that means.
It's 16 seed.
Let me have my moment on either Thursday or Friday, and you leave Tuesday and Wednesday to those jabronis that couldn't get it right. Now, if I'm
18 and 14.
Yeah, and I understand we talked about the SEC, we talked about college football, we talked about level of competition. So I know in my heart of hearts that this Iowa team that went 9-9 in the Big Ten is probably better than my Loyola, not Loyola Chicago, but another Maryland team of the Patriot League. But that 9-9 Big Ten team didn't win their conference. They didn't win their conference tournament in all likelihood. Give me my Thursday, Friday in the NCAA tournament, and I have a chance to become the second UMBC. Another Maryland team. Sorry, Mr. Virginia. But the point being, what if we put
they won the national championship game?
I know. But what if we put UMBC in the first 4 and they lost to, Wichita State or something? We never even get that story. And we're still sitting here talking about how a 16 has never beat a
blowout.
It was a blowout.
It was a blowout. I remember when Hampton beat Iowa State, there was a 15-2 seed. I was in high school. I was like, what?
Yes. Because
And that's the thing. The tournament is like designed for the Cinderella. People only watch the tournament for. I guarantee you, I've probably watched a handful of college basketball games and highlights and things this year. Not much because really into football and NBA,
right.
that just life and everything else. But come March, I'm making a bracket. I might pick team based off color. I'm like, I like this color over this color gold. Or I flip a coin, or I just pick every team for Virginia. Like first round, I normally pick every team for Virginia. I don't care who they playing. I just pick them.
And part of me is a little salty because there seems to always be at least one HBCU in those first four games as well because of the how weak the conferences are and all that kind of stuff. And I understand that those conferences are weak, but all I'm saying is I did what I met your criteria. You gave me a criterion to meet.
I met your acceptance criteria, put me in.
Put me in.
If I'm a play-in part of the tournament.
If I'm going to lose by 20 to Arizona,
at least let me get on TV.
Whoever you put in that spot besides me, or whoever beats me in the first four, or whatever, is still going to lose by 20 to Arizona in all likelihood. Why can't it be me? That's what I got to get off my chest.
It doesn't make sense to me if you're gonna have the plan. Like that's the thing. I remember when they went to 68. I'm like, if you're gonna have why have 68? You should just stuck with 64.
Oh, and the latest thing that got me upset as well, part of that rage I was talking about, is they just approved the possibility of going to 96. So a lot of people think that's not going to happen. They don't think it's going to pass, but they do have permission to go to 96 if they see fit.
Then what is the point of playing basketball from October to March?
Well, see, real quick, I think so. It's one of those things, right? We talked about college football having 131 teams, soon to be 133, and right now only 4 teams get in the playoff. So right now, that 68 team comes out of a pool of 363. So, percentage-wise, it's still low, I guess, but it's enough because once you start doing that, you grasping at straws, and now you letting in teams.
You're letting teams that are like that are 14 and 15.
You're letting in somebody
15 and 14 on the season.
You're letting somebody like Syracuse, because the ACC now plays 20 conference games in a season. So now you're letting 8 and 12 in the ACC Syracuse get in because Syracuse is a moneymaker, and you're still going to tell, Bradley University in the Missouri Valley
they got to win their
that their 29-3 ain't good enough because they didn't beat anybody. So at the end of the day, the word that you used earlier, it's just a money grab. That's all college sports is, and it's sad because these kids go out here and I don't want to do the back in my day thing, but kids played for the love of the sport. They played for the love of the school. So that's my issue with things like the transfer portal. I'm all for
damn near for free.
Yeah, I'm all for player movement. I'm all for, hey, my coach left and I signed up to play for him. Let me go. I'm for all of that. Oh no, we got an Amber Alert going on, y'all. Sorry about that. Got an Amber Alert going off, but it's one of those things where, I'm for the player empowerment. I'm for the player movement, but we lost while we came here because I was listening to somebody talk about Jimbo Fisher, down at A&M, and they said, back in the 80s, a dude played for A&M because his granddaddy went there because they hate the University of Texas. There were reasons internally why you went to A&M. Now you're going to A&M because they're the highest bidder. You know what I mean? And
yep.
by the way, I said I was for the transfer portal. I still hate NIL because it ain't actually the school paying the player. It's you're dependent on these businesses and boosters to do it, but the universities are still keeping their money.
I'm gonna go work at this car wash and stand out there and wear a T-shirt on Saturday and get paid my $90,000.
Yeah.
Because it's one of Bruce's car dealership's favorite car washes, or whatever the case may be. Listen, if I can go out here, if I'm a physics major, I can go out here and tutor people for $50 an hour. Then as a football player with access to the gym, I should be able to train some people who put on a freshman 15 to help them get their weight off for $1,000 for the month.
Right.
If a car dealership wants to put me on a billboard and give me a new GMC truck, lifted SRT or STR, whatever they call it, give it to me. They want to give me the Dodge, I'm taking it. I'm going to go play football.
Yeah.
Try to get the best deals I can. And people are like, oh, these guys don't know about taxes. Somebody will teach me about taxes. My dad, mom, grandma, an accountant, Google, YouTube, somebody, I'll figure it out. Give me my money so I can go play, because if I wasn't good, you wouldn't pay me. And if I wasn't performing, you get rid of me. So I'm performing, pay me, let me go about my business. Everybody else does it. I want to do it too. But yeah, I feel you. Like I said, it feels like a money grab. I know there's a lot of love in the sport. I know there's a lot of patriotism. You see guys crying when they lose, crying when they win. I watched the Rose Bowl. Utah lost. Quarterback went out. He came back, did a little video saying he's coming back. I get it. I mean,
yeah, you even cried over that one, right?
My son went on a football game. That's about it. My son's senior night. So I was in the middle of the field, ball in my eyes on the 30-yard line.
Yeah. And you see,
So I
y'all.
understand like the passion of the sport. Granted, mine is based on, my parental passion for it, but I understand the passion for the sport.
See, y'all, this is the unfiltered stuff of why we wanted to do this show, because we can have these conversations, we can make light of it, and we can be serious at the same time. But I'm filled with all this rage, and it's my fault, and I apologize because we went over time again. But that's just what we do.
Yeah.
So we're gonna let the editors get to their things and all that kind of stuff. But thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for joining us. For Raphael Rutley, I'm Mike Wilson, aka 25. 25-bit reports, on Twitter. Just freshly today, hit me up, follow. I will follow you back. We will be back on Friday. We're going to get some NBA talk going on, and we're going to go to the lab and hit y'all off. Love you, America.
Salute.
All right.